Welcome back to Tiny Grams Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today I want to talk about what I think is going to be the most powerful archetype in Spirit of Rebellion, and that is Hero Mill decks. Now this might sound crazy, as everyone's all excited about Rey decks, everyone is all excited about Poe Maz, but I think the deck that is going to be the strongest deck, at least until an errata comes around, is this Hero Mill deck. And the foundation of it is going to be Padme and most likely Maz as well if you want to be on the safe side. And the reason is you really do want two yellow characters, and you'll see what I mean shortly. And so Padme is just simply awesome. She discards cards out of hand. She discards cards off the top of the deck. She is mill power. Now, I have Rey in here as my third character. You could easily go a red character. It kind of depends on what you want to do with the Hero Mill. This particular build that I'm going to show you today is more based around having Patience in your deck, which is such a monstrous blowout card that it seems like this is a great way to start. Another great build, though, is simply to go something like Snap Wexley, and then go ahead and get C-3PO and Scout, which are also very strong. So I feel like you can go a number of different directions, but this is the way I'm going to go out of the gate. Also, what's cool about this deck is it's basically a budget deck. There are not a lot of expensive cards in here. It does have 4-speed, but 4-speed is a card that is more of a luxury in this deck rather than a must-have centerpiece of the deck. Alright, so let's start with what makes Hero Mill particularly great. And I know this is going to sound weird because there aren't mill cards. The reason why Hero Mill is so amazing is because it's so hard to kill the deck. The reason why Hero Mill never quite made it in Awakenings is it was not quite fast enough, and people just had too much ammunition to kill your characters before you could really get to that end game. You'd always get close. They'd have 3 in hand and none in the deck, and you just couldn't do it. But now you have these endless options for keeping characters alive. The most basic one is Second Chance. If you get a Second Chance out early on Padme, you're probably going to win. It's really as simple as that. And then the fact that you can combine it with Ammo Belt is absolutely insane. Now you may be thinking, Tiny, there's no way that combo works. Well, I can tell you it does. The designer of the game, Lucas, was seen playing it at the Star Wars Celebration. He answered questions directly saying it does work. He told me directly that it works. For now, Second Chance and Ammo Belt do work. What I mean is when you proc your Second Chance, your character goes back to 5 health, and instead of getting rid of Second Chance, you get to get rid of the Ammo Belt. This is incredibly strong. I've done a couple of videos where I highlighted this interaction already, and this is what keeps this deck really going. I have one Scavenge in my deck, just in case I can't find that Second Chance. I've had a couple of games already where I've gone ahead and scavenged for a Second Chance from my deck. Now, sometimes even it'll get popped early. Before you have your Ammo Belt, you can scavenge it back. Maybe your Ammo Belt gets popped, you scavenge that back. Basically, it gives you that opportunity to either pull it out of your discard pile or hunt a little deeper into the deck to get that Second Chance when you need it. Rebel does something sort of similar. It lets you get back either an Ammo Belt or a Second Chance out of your discard pile. It's a pretty strong card. I like it. I have Caution in here as a one of. I don't know what's going to happen with this deck. Are people going to kill Rey because she has 2 dice? They very well may. That's why I only have 1 copy of it in here. If it turns out that people are just going after Padme hardcore every game, then I'll probably stick a 2nd copy in here. And Lone Operative is phenomenal for what this deck is trying to do. What you really want to be able to do is get in a late game situation where you have Padme plus a card plus Second Chance and Ammo Belt that you're sort of looping to keep her alive while you're finishing off that mill. And Lone Operative is great for this because it has a mill side itself, and if you miss the mill side, you get to trigger the special and heal damage. So it's really an amazing third card to have on her, along with other cards like Conars, which we'll get to in a moment. Alright, so let's talk about the mill cards then. There aren't really that many. You already have Rey's 2 dice, you have Padme's die, which is fantastic. And so after that, you don't need that much more mill to be able to make this happen. But an amazing card in this kind of deck is Patience. The problem with Patience has always been, can you get it off before your guys die? And it's still a question that I'm not 100% sold on. If you can't, if it turns out Patience just doesn't do much work for you, then I think it's worth just scrapping blue entirely and going the red route and throwing C-3PO in there, who's just amazing with Con Artist and Padme. I mean, every time I look at this, I'm like, oh no, C-3PO just kills me. But Patience is super strong, and this particular build has a lot of one-cost upgrades to try to get Patience online a little bit faster, a little bit easier. But if you can hit them for 5 or 6 in the mid-game, that's a pretty big dent, especially if you have a Con Artist going. So let's talk about Con Artist. Con Artist is amazing in a deck where the yellow character is not going to die. The fact that it has a discard side and a special which grows, so that you're able to be flipping cards off the top of their deck. Once you get to the end game, it's also discarding cards out of your hand, or maybe you just chuck it for a lone operative and upgrade over it. It's a really strong card. I think it's one of the reasons why Yellow Mill is so good, because you just get to lop cards off the top of their deck. Between this and Padme every turn, that's quite a bit. Ascension Gun is one of these interesting cards of it could get cut eventually. I don't really know, but it's got a mill side. It has a really cool ability that you can, I'm going to assume you're not going to win the roll-off, and if you don't, they're not picking Command Center. But if you have Ascension Gun out, you can grab it whenever you want and just use it, which is really strong. I love Friends in Low Places in all mill decks. I think this card is good anyway. The question is it good enough to make decks? That really is the question. But in a mill deck, it's just an obvious play. I'll often start the turn with this and just flip out of Friends in Low Places. Okay, we're going to discard you down to 4 cards, and I get to decide how I'm going to structure my turn based on what you have. Getting free information and discarding a card for a mill deck is quite incredible. All right, now come the cards we're going to be looking at and probably scratching your head and going, what is going on? And the reason a lot of these cards are in there is simply because we have this as a Patience deck. If this is not a Patience deck, obviously you don't need Journals of Ben Kenobi. Datapad becomes a real iffy card. Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. Force Speed is just amazing in a Patience deck. It's a 0-cost die, and it's not a bad die. I'll often roll out Ray first, and then if I hit that die, one of two things happens. Either they remove the special, so now they can't remove Padme's special, or they don't, and then I get to roll out Padme, and then if I don't hit, maybe I roll out Maz then, and then use one of her actions to focus Padme's die and resolve it. So the bottom line is Force Speed. It's not a must-have in this deck, and the same with Maz's Goggles. You might be looking at this and saying, I thought you said this was a budget deck. They could easily come out. There's a number of cards that could go in. For instance, Fast Hands could just flat go in for Force Speed. Fast Hands is one of the casualties in this deck of wanting all of these one-cost dice for your Patience. Fast Hands would also be good in this deck. Maz's Goggles basically plays 2 roles. Patience and being able to stick this on Maz early, so that when you do roll Maz, maybe you hit the 2, trigger it as one of your dice resolutions, and then getting 2 dice to the size you want. Now, Journals of Ben Kenobi, yeah, that's not a good card. It's not a terrible card, though. It actually has 2 sides that are resources, and not plus resources, so that's pretty darn good. And it has kind of a cool action. You can draw another card. This could be incredibly useful in this deck when you need your second chance, when you need your ammo belt, when you really want a Patience early. So it does play a role still. I think this is one of those cards that's going to be like you play it and then you overwrite it, right? You overwrite it with something more useful, especially once you get that Patience off. And this could easily just come out for Datapads. I'm not 100% sure on that. Not Datapads, Fast Hands. And Datapad's really good. Being able to flip stuff to specials if you hit its special and then just resolve them is really strong. Being able to do this, especially with Con Artist and Padme, it's a pretty good card. But again, it could come out if it's not a Patience deck. I can't stress that enough. There are different ways to build this. This is a Patience build. And one of the casualties of having a Patience build is we don't have quite as much as removal as we might want. We have our Electroshocks, our Flanks, and our Lothcat and Mouse. I'd like to potentially have some more in here. And this is another problem of when you have all these one-cost dice in there that you're trying to get a Patience off. So really, that to me, that's the biggest question: is how do you want to build this? Do you want to build it with Ray and Patience and one cost dice, or do you want to go more all in on, having Red, having Snap Wexley, having C3PO, having Scout? I think that's also an excellent version. You also get Field Medic. So I'm torn on which route is best right now, but I really think Hero Mill is probably going to be not only a tier 1 deck, I think it's going to be the deck that dictates the metagame. That's not to say it'll win every game. When a deck dictates the metagame and the meta adapts around it, sometimes it can just completely squash it. So we'll have to see about that. But it's going to be really strong. It's really hard to deal with. Good luck killing Padme with a second chance and an ammo belt and being able to get back ammo belt. That just seems so wrong in so many ways. I'm really excited to be able to see this deck in action. I've played it a number of times already. I haven't lost with it yet. It's really good. And like I said, it's a budget deck. Yes, it has the 2 legendaries, Maz's Goggles, 4 speed. Neither of them are must-haves. You could put Cheat in those spots. You could put Fast Hands in the spot. You could just dump blue altogether. Put all the red cards in that we talked about. So there's a bunch of ways to build this deck is my point. This is the starting spot for this deck. But be ready for it. As much as people are talking about Pol Maz, this is the deck that's really going to give us troubles until the second chance ammo belt interaction is errated, and I can almost guarantee you it will be. It's so strong, there's no way it'll stay all the way till Gen Con. So use it while you can. Use some Hero Mill. Have some fun with it. And I'll see you next time on Tiny Grams Games.